Welcome to Make Change Fun and Easy with your happiness expert, Samia Bano. This is the podcast to help change makers, coaches, trainers, and healers break your chains of fear so you can create the impact and income you desire with fun and ease. Please make sure you subscribe to enjoy every episode. This podcast is sponsored by the Happiness 101 program. Hello, salam, shalom, namaste, sat sri akal, aloha, hola, ciao, bonjour, buna, and privyet. It's really good to be with you again. And you know what? Of course, we have a very special guest with us today, and I'm so happy to have her with us. And our guest today is Vivienne Joy, who is a deep structure mindset expert. That is so cool. Welcome.
Hi. Had to find a hello that you hadn't used. Hi.
Oh, please tell us more about who you are and what you do.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. So yeah, I'm Vivienne Joy, and I'm known for helping women to get out of their own way. So I help them understand all of that mindset block, that self-talk, that kind of quite self-debilitating, self-sabotaging, procrastinating, that pretty much every woman knows at some point. And so we understand where it comes from. So the deep structure stuff is understanding the origin of all this kind of self-talk, and then we reset it and restructure the neural pathways. So that's what I do. And then I help women to build their business. So give them the skills and the self-belief and the confidence and determination to then leave a legacy. So I go from I'm not good at anything to wow, I can change the world and I'm going to leave a legacy. So quite a powerful experience and very, very rewarding. Yeah, that's what I do.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. And in some ways you mirror what I love to do with my clients also. I'm a happiness expert, of course, so my first priority is really helping my clients really gain a sense of control over their mental, emotional health. Because I think you and I are on the same page on this, that really good mental health is at the bottom or the foundation of all the success we can achieve. And good mental health includes dealing with all of that mind talk that we have going on that can really bog us down, like the criticisms and the judgments and the shame, guilt, etc., that oftentimes, even more than other people, we tend to put on ourselves. And it's
it comes from inside our head. We are the biggest critic and bully to ourselves than anyone outside of us. And especially if we've had that in our lives, if we have been bullied or we've been chastised or told we can't, or we're not good enough, we're too loud, we're not loud enough, we're too clever or not clever enough, too pretty, not pretty enough, we then will believe that and carry on that conversation in our head continuously to the state where we absolutely believe it and we make it real, becomes our reality. And so unprogramming that can take some time if you're doing it from now backwards. But if you can go back to the point of origin, i.e., somebody in school at the playground, or a parent said something inadvertently, or some higher power of authority has said something to you when you're in a heightened state of emotion and you formed that belief, we can unpick it right there. It does a thing called a gestalt, where it literally will then unchain the rest of the events throughout the life from that point forward. So it's quite magical, and to watch it happening is quite addictive. I'm not going to lie. Quite addicted to that breakthrough point, that moment of and I've got so many stories of my own actual, I've done a lot of this work to be able to do what I do. I train and mentor and accredit coaches myself, so help them to be NLP coaches, which are the processes that help us understand what's going on in the neurology of our brain and how it's impacting our lives and how it's showing up. So yeah, very, very important. Somebody said to me actually yesterday that mental health is life wealth. And I thought that was lovely. I really liked it. I was like, I'm going to speak about that tomorrow. So here we are. And it's true, because if we don't have that right mindset, that right self-talk, that right inner guidance and confidence, then everything outside of ourselves is not our own creation. It's come from someone somewhere else. And that's very disempowering, because then we're living someone else's life. And there's so many women especially will live the life that their partner wants, their parents thought, their children think they should have, and we should be our true selves, and therefore we have uttermost confidence at all times.
Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode. Hope you're getting value out of it. For your information, this episode has been sponsored by the Happiness 101 program. Are you a change maker, coach, trainer, or healer? Are chains of fear holding you back from making the impact and income you desire? Using a unique combination of positive psychology and the spiritual wisdom of our most effective change makers, the Happiness 101 program helps you break through your limiting beliefs and manifest the abundance and success you desire with fun and ease. Interested? Book a free Happiness 101 exploration call with me, your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Just use my online calendar link in the show notes. Now back to the show. Yes, you're so true. I mean, even men are impacted by this dynamic for sure. I think what happens with us ladies, though, is that we care more. Maybe it's like a nurture thing where we are also taught to be more caring about what other people think, and not just caring about what they think, but this is something I would often argue with my mom about in my rebellious days, where she was like, it's your job as the woman to keep the peace, because men, they are not as mature, they're not as emotionally intelligent when it comes to dealing with relationships. So it's your job as the woman to keep the peace.
I do think they've improved over time. I think that probably, but I think women, women have naturally do seem to care more what other people think for some reason, whereas men are more self-serving. Not all, it's a big sweeping statement, I know, and anybody watching this will be like, oh, that's not the case in my life, in which case, well done, congratulations. But yeah, in my experience, and I've met lots of men, they usually have a problem, they find a solution, and they get on with it. It's not normally about other things outside of them, actually, apart from parents sometimes, that can work. But so women, we like to think about it, we want to talk about it, we want to know why, we want to work out how, like we really are very curious and inquisitive, whereas guys, in my experience, they find the problem, they fix it, and they get on. Like, it's a very different experience in their own head. They have a very different levels of self-talk. Their self-talk is all about problem solving, whereas ours is all about the actual problem itself, like stuck in that problem, because our brains naturally want to find a way of being safe. That is what we're conditioned for. That's all we're conditioned for. The unconscious and primal brain is to keep us alive, keep us safe, and to procreate, actually. That, if you think we're quite primal, really, in that way. So it's not set for success and joy and happiness and fulfillment and satisfaction. It's set for safety, staying the same, and certainty. And unfortunately, those three things don't line up to joyful experience of life. They are, keep us very samey and quite boring and quite bored. Even in situations that we don't like, we will stay in them. So plenty of people stay in relationships and jobs that don't serve them, and friendships that don't serve them, health patterns, because it's known. And the brain says, the unconscious brain, which has nothing to do with the conscious brain, by the way, really says, well, this is what we're going to keep doing because it's nice and safe. And so if we grow up that pattern into running a business, it's really unsafe. Like, there's nothing safe about running a business. Like, mostly at the time, you don't know if you're going to be able to build the business. You don't have the skills to sell and market and the strategy to keep that happening. You don't know if what you're going to deliver is right. You don't know if your pricing is right. You don't know if when you're talking on a video live that people are going to accept you or judge you. So it's a really unsafe environment. And most people are battling through that. Through, against their own nature, really, which is to stay nice and safe and sit and watch Netflix and eat ice cream, which is what most of us end up doing when we get into a fear state. So a lot of what I do is to help people to just nudge themselves into a different level of comfort zone to understand actually what is really necessary, rather than go full force into the business and then fail, which we see a lot of. Most businesses fail in their first 12 months.
That is such an excellent point. You're right. I remember having a chat with my dad, maybe when I was a teenager. I was like in my late teens. And I have like people in my family who have always been business people. And like I've heard them, like growing up talking about business. And at one level, they would like say things and I'd be like, this is not complicated. Like, what's the big deal, about doing business? And I asked my dad that at one point in time, and he said, what gets really complicated about business is that the unpredictability, because things are always changing, and like in the market, in the environment, in terms of what people are needing, the trends, etc. And so that's the tricky part, is being able to stay in touch with all of that change and then be willing to adapt to it, because a lot of times we're not either aware of the change. We're like, just okay, I started to do things this way in my business, and then this worked for me, this is working for me, just keep going. And there's this resistance to change, but it can really be your downfall. And then he did mention a second reason why business can be difficult, but that's going to take us on a different track.
So that change we're talking about, I know that's what you do, is the thing nobody wants to do, because change is risky. Change is not safe. Change is not the same. Change is not certain. So what we have to do is get that level of certainty. So I do a lot of visualization. NLP is very much about timeline, understanding the timeline of where you've come from and the timeline of where you're going, so that you can kind of vision it. So you can really vision it in all its glory, not just the loveliness, but actually, like, for example, I've run lots and lots of events, big events. And the first time I ran a summit, I remember one of my clients said, "Are you nervous?" I said, "No, I have visioned and lived this event 1,000 times, right down to nobody arriving, my speakers not arriving, the tech not working, the food not being there, the toilets not working, the coffee." So I've problem solved every part of that. So actually on the day, there's not really anything to fear, because my brain has gone through that change process already and is already accepting. So everything went perfectly, apart from it snowed. We had the beast from the east over in the UK. I don't know if you remember that. First, I know it well, 1st of March 2018, the first time I ran a big event. And all of the women that arrived did so despite the snow. So it was very empowering. Some had never driven in the snow before. It was a really big deal. But so, yeah, that whole kind of creating the change that's right in the right way is really, really important. Because the trouble is, what happens is we think, oh, that person over there got a great business or a great life or a great relationship. They must be doing it right. I must be doing it wrong. I have to do it their way. And then what happens is we see lots of people following all the kind of very successful coaches and leaders in the world, trying to do it the coach's way or the leader's way. And that's not their own way. So eventually they're doing life in somebody else's shoes, and that doesn't work either. And also because the person has done it like that is because they had the skill and they had the idea and it was their, it was their thing. So yeah. We always want to stay safe. That is our first primary objective, is to stay safe. And if you always remember that. But most women say, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just do this? Why can't I just get on with it? Why can't I JFDI? Why can't I, be Nike? Can't I just get on with it? No, because your brain is going to do everything to keep you where you are now. You're literally fighting your natural urge the whole time. So nothing wrong with you. Your brain is working correctly, it's doing what it's supposed to do to try and keep you safe. So yeah, that curiosity of what if I did it slightly differently each time, like building small habits, I can't remember who wrote the book on that. That's a very empowered way of doing things.
I love
Until you
that.
get like me, and I make massive changes very quickly because I've been doing it a long time, so I can vision it really very clearly, and help me decide a lot of stuff. Sometimes I vision things like launching things and think, oh, actually, I don't like it doesn't feel right, and that way I can stop myself from making that mistake, which would definitely be a mistake. Yeah. How do you make change? How do you do things? What's your process?
Oh, interesting. So, well, in the context of mental health, creating change in the context of mental health, that's my area of specialization. And so when I wrote my book, I created a very clean, clear, simple 3-step system. And it's basically like a stop, heal, and grow.
Ah, nice.
So it's like, first of all, you have to stop what's wrong or what the problem is. You have to stop the damage from getting worse. Like if you take an analogy of what if you were in an accident and you got physically injured, you go to the doctor, the first thing they're going to do is crisis management, right? If you're bleeding, you need to stop the bleeding. If you have a broken bone, you have to make sure you set it so the damage doesn't continue to get worse. So you have to identify what those causes are that have created the damage and that could create more damage. You put a stop to that. And then you start the healing process. That's like emergency stuff, crisis managed, but then you still have to recover. So that's its own skill set, to sort of work with. And then once you have been working on the recovery piece, you reach to a certain point where you're like, I'm back to where I was before we had that crisis. And unfortunately, most people just stop right there. But actually, you can keep growing from there. And that's my favorite stage.
I love that. Yeah, no, I love
it. Yes. So it's like, keep growing after the healing, and achieve even more excellence, become even better than you were before the crisis happened. So, keep
going. I love it.
Yeah,
keep going. Exactly. Keep going. I love that. That's lovely. Yeah. So it sounds like you've got personal experience of this. I feel like I'm interviewing you now, but I'm genuinely curious. I love that. Like many of us as coaches and therapists or healers in some way, we are healing a version of ourselves. So something has happened. That's why we're so passionate to help people. And you can tell the people that are doing that, and then there's others that are doing it more for money and for building a business in a different way. So it sounds like you've had that where there's been a crisis. And
Indeed, I do talk about my journey a lot. So I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse, and so everyone suffered trauma in their lives. Everyone. I don't know a single person who hasn't suffered. Maybe they haven't suffered a major trauma that they're able to immediately identify like I can, but everyone suffered small, big trauma, sometimes vicarious traumas where you're just dealing with other people's traumas in terms of being present for their stuff. But when you do have a major trauma in your life, that sort of really, like for me, it just changed everything, and just made me so focused. First, like for a good decade on just my suffering. And like I couldn't even think about or care about anyone or anything else.
Remember what I said earlier? Yes. So women get problem, like we revel in it, work out why and what did I do wrong and why me, and we kind of sit in that almost victim. Yes.
And the good thing about being in that stage also for me was that one of the whys that I started asking was like, not only why is this happening to me, but or happened to me, or but I asked also started asking the how. It's like, how can I help myself? How can I help myself stop suffering? Because I'm like, I reached a point where I was like, I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. So it really got me focused on learning everything that I could, to like, really, I started with just trying to help myself. And then, you reach a point in your healing journey where you're like, oh, it's actually not all about me. And actually, when I help somebody else, it actually helps me more. I had to, yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah, and it was like a really beautiful realization for me because I have a brother who has, he has a genetic disorder, because of which, he has a disability. He's been in a wheelchair now for oh my gosh, like 25 years or something. But when he first hit a point of crisis in his condition that landed him in the wheelchair, it was like a point of decision. Like, it was such a huge thing for my whole family to deal with. And it was a point where I had to make a decision. Am I going to stay wrapped up in my own stuff, or am I going to do something to help my brother? And thank God I made the decision to try and do something to help my brother, because that for me was one of the first major breakthroughs I experienced in terms of coming out of my own fog and suffering and, the blackness that I had been stuck in. It was like the first ray of light that guided me down the healing path. So, yeah.
Well done. I think so many stay in that, and they either suffer in depression or they sadly decide not to be here anymore on this incarnation. So so well done for finding that. I think I look back, I've had a lot of trauma in my life, of which all of it I have recovered from. So I consider myself to be pretty resilient, I think some people then don't think they can cope. And that self-talk that we talked about before of, I can't cope, how am I going to survive, what am I going to, actually creates the problem. It actually becomes the problem, because people do recover, the mind recovers, the body recovers, most. But actually the mindset is set. That the reason it's called a mindset is that's what its whole job is. It's not mind expansion, it's mindset. So if you can change it and unset it and just move it slightly, and it sounds like you did exactly that. Okay, let's not focus on this now. This is where I was set. I'm going to focus over here slightly. I'm just going to focus on something outside of me, or something that's going to give me a solution. So when we go into solution-based thinking, that is where we start to get our answers. That's where we start to get our shifts and our movements. So but most clients, when they arrive with me, and I'm sure with you, they are in this kind of stuck, kind of going round in a circle and a cycle of self-debilitation and problems. And of course problems create problems and attract more problems and problem people as well. That kind of energy, I don't know what your beliefs are around energy work, but that kind of brings more. We attract like attracts like, don't they say? So when we're in this growth phase and we're kind of finding solutions, solutions come towards us, and we attract people in our world that help us to grow. So well done for getting yourself out of that situation.
It's all God's love, truly. Like, that's my my very firm belief, that if I've been able to achieve any healing, any recovery, because I didn't know what I was doing, no idea. Like, as a survivor of child sexual abuse, I didn't even know what to call what I had experienced. I didn't even have the language, And so it's truly like, for me, it has been a process of recognizing just one blessing after another, and just one helpline after another that's been set my way. And thank God I had enough motivation, to grab on and do what I could to move forward. Because you're right, that is not something that we can take for granted. Like, you're not always in that receptive mindset, and that's when you're like really stuck, you know. And I think that's actually the most difficult part probably to deal with, is like when you're not in that receptive mindset. You know, you're somebody's offering you love, somebody's offering you help, but you're not in the mindset to receive. I mean, I guess in some ways, with the work that we do, by the time our people find us, they are in a receptive state. They're wanting to be helped, but some
or a very broken state, or very broken and desperate, actually. You know, sometimes desperation creates a lack of belief in self. Like, I can never be any different. I'm so bad now. I'm so broken. I'm so debilitated. My mindset is so bad that no one can help me. I've had that said to me so many times. And I'm like, give me 15 minutes. You know, I offer a 15-minute call to anybody, really, because my vocation in life is to help those people. And I say, well, let's just have 15 minutes and just see, shall we? Let's just check how that is going. Because I can tell you now, it'll be one thing that's creating everything. And once we can understand what that is, and we can unpack and unpick and reset that, and like you say, get it to heal. So when, you know, it's like having a bullet in you. You can't heal while the bullet's in there. So let's get the bullet out, and then we'll let the wound heal. And then, as you say, then we can move.
Yes, you're so right. You're so right, because I agree with you. Like, it does come down to that mindset piece as the root cause. And I love what you just were sharing also about for the people who are in that stuck place where they're feeling like, oh, I'm just stuck and that nothing can be done, to be like, hey, let's just give it a try. 15 minutes. Yeah. I love it.
What have you got to lose, kind of stuff? Like, you know, what have you got to lose? Worst case scenario, we'll have a chat, and you'll absolutely be proved right that you're completely broken and no one can help you. And, you know, then you can at least, but this way, at least you'll know, rather than the moment we tell ourselves some utter rubbish. We really do. We tell ourselves things that are not true and haven't been true for years. You know, I created a belief when I was about 8 years old based on a little experience that I had with my mother. It wasn't her intention, but one day I couldn't get to school. I wasn't very well. I didn't want to get out of bed. You know, if you've got children, you identify with this. And my mum shouted up the stairs to me, you're so lazy, Vivienne. And my head put that down as a belief. And I've had such a problem to release that belief. And I'm like, sometimes I work 15-hour days because I'm so committed to what I do. Like, that's not the behavior of a lazy person. Yet sometimes I still hear myself say, come on, don't be so lazy. And I laugh at it now. I'm just like, oh, it's ridiculous that my 8-year-old self, I'm now 50 years old, is still having an impact on my 50-year-old self, even though I've proven time and time again how not lazy I am. So yeah, sometimes the beliefs we lay down, and oftentimes they were never true in the first place anyway. I wasn't lazy even as an 8-year-old. I just wasn't well. So yeah, we have all sorts of beliefs.
There's this idea that oftentimes, you know, when people will say things to us that are hurtful, either we will take it on as true and then, you know, work accordingly, or there's a part of us that, you know, feels rebellious and it's like, no, I will prove you wrong. And I find I would love to get your perspective on, like, when you get into this energy of the rebellion of I will prove you wrong. Is that a helpful energy and mindset to be in, or is there any downsides to that also?
Oh, well, that's a great question. And I can't answer it from that perspective because I'm trying to reach into my brain and think, have I ever needed to prove someone wrong? But I've done this work for so many years. I started NLP when I was 23, so a long, long time ago, before, you know, it was mainstream more and anybody knew what it was really. Tony Robbins was the only guy really using it. I learned very much that it wasn't about anyone else, so I didn't have to prove anyone wrong. But I tell you what, proving myself right, I never really realized that until this moment, but actually proving myself right, like I can do this, I have got this, I am capable. So I was made redundant from a job about 20 years ago, must be now. I've been in business for 20 years, and it wasn't about proving them wrong as much as say, I'm proving how good I can do this if you don't make me redundant. So I think it was not really about them, it was always about me. But I'm not saying people don't have that. But I think whatever you can use, you know, if you've got it within you, you can use it. And so it's better to use that energy to propel you forward than to say, oh, actually, you're right, I'm rubbish, I can't do that, I'm not useful, I'm not, you know, whatever else has been said. That would just kind of keep you stuck. So listen, if it's going to motivate you forward, use whatever force you can get, right, until you realize what is doing that and can let that go. It's a bit like an anchor or a rudder, isn't it? So one's going to steer you, one's going to weigh you down. So one's going to steer you, then go and be steered by whatever that, you know, it could be a storm, but it's going to get you to the island rather than sit in that passive water. So yeah, great question though. But no, never had to prove anybody wrong, actually, not ever. I've had to prove myself wrong a few times. Right, actually. Prove yourself wrong, Vivienne. You're not lazy. Oh, I know what you can do. Why don't you run a 5K? You know, why don't you do a marathon? Why don't you swim like, you know, 5 kilometers and prove that you're not lazy? So if anything else, it's the other way around, actually. Great question, though. Thank you.
Yeah. You know, I asked that question because I know I have gone through this a lot in my life where either I'm like trying to prove somebody wrong, or where I was trying to prove myself right. I love that perspective of looking at the situation. And while it did propel me forward to a certain extent, I did find myself reaching a point where this sort of started to become dysfunctional for me. You know,
like a revenge thing. Yeah.
Not even like vengeance and revenge, but like limiting my sense of choice in what I could do. Because, you know, it's like if I'm so like stuck on this idea of proving myself right or proving the other person wrong, then I have to do the thing that will prove to them or to myself that I'm right and they're wrong. And so then, you know, for every choice I make, there's consequences, right? Like everything I say yes to doing and focusing on and spending my time on, I'm saying no to lots of other things, you know. And so I found that it started to restrict my sense of choice in what I could do. And that was like a huge problem. And then I also realized that there were a few people in my life who seemed to realize this about me, and they started to use this against me. They were like, when they wanted me to do something, they'd be like, oh, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong if I would resist. You know, then they'd be like, oh, so you are like this, you are like that. And if you're not, then prove me wrong by doing what I said. And I'd be like, I'm going to prove you wrong. You know, and so it actually, you know, yeah. And I didn't even realize that it became like a tool of manipulation that people were using against me because they realized this pattern that I had developed. And it was such a strong pattern that I had developed.
Well, you see, everything is a pattern. Everything we do in life is a pattern. We're born and we create beliefs and strategies for life. Everything is a pattern. That's what NLP is. So we're understanding those patterns and scrambling them and changing them. And that's how we reprogram the neural pathways. So that pattern was a strong one. Yeah. A strong driver by the sound of things. But sometimes we don't understand why we do things. Like somebody said to me the other day about things we do in the kitchen that our mothers did. Like, I don't know about you, but I still do that. Sometimes I'm thinking I am actually my mother at this point. I'm just doing some, like, why am I still doing this? Why do I put this cloth into this bit of liquid here? Like, what? Like, I can afford all the cloths in the world now. Like, my mum probably had that one cloth that she had to make last. Like, we're still doing the same things that we always did because that's our normal. It's safe, it's certain, and it's the same. remember. So that's why. So that pattern served you at some point, and then you just did it again and again and again until it no longer served you. But we have to be able to get leverage for change. Like, change doesn't normally just happen. It's like we either have to be really bad where we are or really good where we want to go, that kind of light and dark. It has to be really dark and horrible for us to go, well, I'm not being here anymore, or really light and beautiful and gorgeous for us to go, right, I want to be over there. And once we can get ourselves into, I don't like it here and I really want to be there, that's where that motivation becomes dedication. Like, we're absolutely doing it. It's, you know, no question, no nothing. And if we can see our future past that as well, then that is just another stepping stone to where we're going. So that's how I tend to clients. Yeah, it's good stuff. We're in a great game, aren't we? We're in a great job. It's just a powerful, beautiful, lovely, energetic, you know, lovely job. Some of my friends have got jobs and I just think, God, I couldn't do that job. I just think, oh, they probably look at me and think they couldn't listen to people all day, so they probably couldn't do it either. But it's lovely when you find your thing, isn't it? It really is.
Indeed. I think one of the greatest joys in our life is being able to do what we love and make money at it, because then you can truly do it and not worry about having to do something else to get the money so that you can survive in this world in terms of, you know, the need for money. So that is so awesome.
Been so lovely. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Oh, thank you so much, Vivienne. I'm sorry to say we are running out of time for today, but I really, really appreciate all the wisdom you have shared with us. And there is actually still questions that are coming to my mind that I would love to follow up with you.
Lovely. Well, you know where I am. Happy to be here. Always let me know.
Yes. We'll probably have to call you back. But just for right now, do you have any last thoughts that you'd like to share?
No, just that, you know what, everything's changing anyway. So, you know, you have to go with the changes. So you may as well enjoy it. Enjoy the change. You know, I'm Vivienne Joy, and that's She Enjoys is the name of my business, because most people don't enjoy it. They fight it. They don't want it. Like, you should be the person that creates the change for yourself, and it's your change. You're empowered to do that, not because someone else says or because you think you have to. So if you can turn your life into being the change that you're creating for yourself, being that change maker and leader of your own life, that's where the joy comes from. That's where the satisfaction and feeling like you're living that life of freedom that everybody talks about. So yeah, if you're stuck and you know you want to change, or you need to change, or you have to change, or you're in that place and you do need support. Like, I'm the best coach and coach trainer I know, and I get that told a lot, but I struggle to change myself. I need someone to ask me better questions and help me understand me, because it's a bit like somebody said to me once, an optician can't operate on their own eye, like an eye surgeon can't do their own eye surgery. And it's exactly the same. So anybody listening to this, if you're stuck and it doesn't feel right, then it's wrong, and get some help if you need some help. And there's lots of people around can help you, and make sure it feels right when you're getting the help from that person, because not everybody is there is right for you. So yeah, they're my last thoughts on it, really.
Oh, thank you so much. And absolutely, I agree with you on that. And for those of you who are listening, I'm going to give you my last thought / reminder, and that is to check the show notes, because we are going to drop Vivienne's links there. So if you feel connected with Vivienne, if you feel that she's the right person who might be able to help and support you, please connect with her and yes, get the help and support that you need whenever you feel ready for that. And until we connect next time, I just wish you lots and lots of peace and joy.
Thank you. Me too.